Hey everybody, I'm Michael, Fighter Life TV, and this video is brought to you in conjunction with NXG Combat Sports in Montgomery, Alabama. Every day we turn on the news and we see more and more bad happening. We see kidnappings, we see murders, we see violent attacks, we see rape, we see just all kinds of ridiculousness. And what I want to do is I want to do a multi-part video series to kind of give you some conversational pieces that you can use to open up that dinner table discussion with your family and loved ones. They say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we can get ahead of this, if we can prevent something from happening, then we can maybe make a difference in somebody else's life. So what I want to do today is I want to give you one rule that we have in our house, we use in our gym as well, and I'd like you to express it to your family. And it's the stupid rule. Don't go stupid places with stupid people doing stupid things. For the most part, that'll eliminate a lot of the problems that commonly are encountered. Unfortunately, the world's getting worse every day. And there are going to be a lot of instances that are just unavoidable. So we need a little bit of preparation. We need a little bit of conversation. We need to make some decisions beforehand. So that if we're ever faced with that issue, that we can just go straight forward and know what we're trying to accomplish, what we're willing to lose and what we're not. So without further ado, I want to go over a few things that I suggest to you for this conversation piece. In the military and in close protection circles, there's what's called the Boyd cycle. And the Boyd cycle is 4 points of occurrence that happen mentally or psychologically under threat or duress or during a combat situation. And it's referred to often as the OODA loop. Sounds kind of funny, but it's OODA and then loop, like a sequence of events or reoccurring cycle. So the Boyd cycle or OODA loop has these 4 bullets: observation, orientation, decision, and action, or observe, orient, decide, and act. The sooner we open up the dialogue regarding the threats and the evils of the world, and the sooner we stop trying to hide our loved ones from them, the faster we can get to the point of conversation that helps our own process where that Boyd cycle is concerned. Now, if you think about the last mass shooting or terrorist attack or whatever major trauma that had survivors, when you hear them being interviewed after the fact, they'll often say, "I saw it and it just took me forever. I just couldn't wrap my head around what was happening. I couldn't believe it." That's where that observation and orientation start to come into play. The next is the decision-making skills, and I can't get to making a decision until I've oriented to the fact of what is happening. And I want to give you an example of some decision-making skills before we go further into the OODA loop or Boyd cycle process. Decision-making. I'm not willing to lose my life over my wallet or my cell phone. So if someone gets the drop on me and the gun's in my face and they say, "Hey, give it up," you got it, boss, it's yours. But if I'm walking in a parking lot with my 12-year-old niece and a similar situation occurs, it's non-negotiable. I'm not giving her up. Sad but true, one of us probably has to die in that moment. God be with me, and hopefully it won't be me. But I'm not willfully going to allow some pervert to just take my 12-year-old niece because I'm afraid to act. Decisions. Probability of you dying post-kidnapping is exponentially higher than your ability to thwart the kidnapping mid-process. I talk to my wife about this on a regular basis. I would rather her fight and die, as sad as that sounds, in the parking lot, where there's the possibility of public scrutiny that criminal would have to face, challenging his resolve to kidnap her, as opposed to allowing him to have that upper hand where he can strengthen his resolve for the bad that he's going to do later when she has given up her time and ability to fight. These are decisions that we make beforehand. And if we've made these decisions beforehand, and if we are mindful of these evils and cognitive of them on a regular basis, then when that Boyd cycle hits in an unfortunate instance, we will be able to more rapidly go through the observation, orientation, and decision-making process and get to the action. Why is it important? Because time is of the essence when seconds matter. Okay? Another thing that I do want to say is this. You hear a lot about fight or flight. If you've taken a self-defense seminar or you've listened to anybody talk on the subject, fight or flight is what you hear. I'm here to tell you this. In a singular individual person scenario, fight or flight is sufficient for self-defense. Because self-defense doesn't require you to beat anybody. It's obligatory that you don't lose. So hear me out again. Not losing is winning when it comes to self-defense. Now there are times that flight may not be an option. I just made reference to an abduction where compliance is not an option and you must fight. Fight or flight or comply can all be the right option depending on what the circumstance is. The problem is when we get stuck in our decision-making cycle and we freeze. It's that third F that causes that micro-hesitation that puts you farther behind the 8 ball than you already are in that situation. So things to talk about. The evils are in the world. What are the do's and don'ts? What are the family safety rules? What are those hard decisions that we need to make now, and we need to feel them in our heart so that if we are ever posed with that pivotal moment, the decision making and the action has already been determined before the necessity has dictated it. Acknowledge that we have to clear through that cycle and that fight or flight can be both equally advantageous, but freeze is never going to help us out. And last but not least, understand the risks. Understand the devil is real. Understand that evil is out there in the world. And when you understand that and you commit yourself to having the will to survive a violent encounter, the steadfastness to fight tooth and nail to get home to your family or to secure the safety of your family, then and only then is it really time for the third and final step. So we're acknowledging the risks, developing the will, and on to the third phase, which is the cultivation of the physical skills. We're going to come to you with part 2, where we're going to discuss how your mindset will ultimately dictate your skill set. Hope to see you back soon. Fighter Life TV, compliments of NXG Combat Sports Montgomery. I'm Michael. Keep it real. Stay safe.